Hey everybody, my name is Paul Eston Jr., aka Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com, just like that fancy title right here says below. Welcome to our live stream. We're streaming live in 3 different places. The Heavy on Jets Facebook page to over 30,000 New York Jet fans here on a late Wednesday evening. Of course, on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/BoyGreen25. Make sure you like the video, hit subscribe down below for more spectacular New York Jets content, and of course on the Twitter feed to over 10,000 of you followers as well. Guys, if you're new to the show, make sure you get involved in the comment section wherever you happen to be watching and get involved on the show. We do this every other week on the channel with my good pal, the Buffalo Jet fan. You can learn more about his YouTube channel in the description down below. So feel free to show your love. We're going to dive in on all the latest QB nuggets, the latest QB intel, all that juicy stuff. So we'll be getting into that, plus some Zach Wilson leaks. Who is indeed telling the truth? And the truth shall set you free, or at least that's what we say anyway. So we'll be diving into all of that as well. And I just tweeted out the nugget, so I guess we'll kind of start off with this nugget. And I was waiting to tweet this puppy out. It's spectacular, and it's from our good buddy Zach Rosenblatt, which, by the way, of course, you can follow Zach Rosenblatt on his social media at Zach Blatt. If you'd like. And it was this on the Twitter feed. I just sent this out. You guys can, of course, follow me at BoyGreen25. And Jets GM Joe Douglas has been given the go-ahead to upgrade the quarterback position by any means necessary, including money, assets, or what have you. Zach Rosenblatt putting that in his piece for The Athletic. A very juicy nugget, a very juicy bite indeed, and we will see, of course, what all of that entails. Again, you can read that full column. It is threaded below. So feel free to check that out on the Twitter sphere. And maybe this will be news to some people. Maybe it won't be news to some people. But the fact of the matter is Woody Johnson is willing to get aggressive. Woody Johnson is willing to make some things happen. He's willing to get a little spicy. And I'm all for it, baby. It's time to go all in. It's time to make a move and make something pop, lock, and drop, baby. I mean, just straight up. That's what we're hoping to do. And quite frankly, I can feel it, man. There's something in my gut. I'm excited. All of this stuff is a lot of fun, but I love that we're going full court press here. I love that the Jets are attacking the jugular. That is key, especially, obviously, breaking news here. This is a quarterback-driven league, baby, and it's the haves and the have-nots. And for the better part of the New York Jets franchise history, of course, they've been a have-not. Of course, Broadway Joe Namath delivered that Super Bowl way back in Super Bowl III, and, of course, that was special. But really, when you evaluate the whole pie, a couple Chad Penningtons, a couple Ken O'Briens, a couple here and there, I mean, they have been a great have-not. But without further ado, I'll bring in my co-host. And again, wherever you're watching, drop in the comments. We'll get you involved on the show here. And I'll let Buffalo dive in right on this juicy tweet I saved to kick off the show. And we'll bring him in here. That is the Buffalo Jet fan joining me in that little small screen. You'll see his handsome face in much greater detail in just a moment. First off, Buffalo, liking the winter hat. How are we doing?
What's going on, Paul Boy Green? Good to see you. What am I looking at here? I haven't seen. I go eat dinner. I do the dishes, and you already got juicy tweets out there.
100%. This is branding, baby. This is waiting for the proper time. I had this saved in the drafts all day, and I'm like, I'm going to do it to kick off our show. I'm going to go live, tweet, boop, and then immediate reaction to my juicy tweet I just unleashed. Now, Zach Rosenblatt did a really fun article, and of course, our Jets beat reporter from The Athletic, who's graced both of our airwaves on our shows. Yes. And in there was a hidden nugget. No one was really talking about it, so I said, oh, great. I will just save it and kind of drop the bomb a little bit later. And if you guys can't really see it again, just go to my Twitter account, but I will read it for you. Jets GM Joe Douglas has been given the go-ahead to upgrade the quarterback position by any means necessary, money, assets, etc. That is a verbatim direct quote from The Athletic, from Zach Rosenblatt's piece. And again, if you'd like to check it out, boop. I'm sure Tim McMaster would appreciate how I just did that, but boop. You guys can read the full column right there. It is threaded below. Now, like I said, Buffalo, before you got in here, that may be some news to some people and no news to others, but it feels important to reiterate as we head into this process. What are your thoughts on, again, Joe Douglas given the green light to do whatever he needs to do, all means, any means necessary to go solve the quarterback position? What say you to that, Buffalo?
It sounds like Jacoby Brissett or Gardner Minshew right now. Look,
That's right.
I have no doubt that that they at the end of season presser, I have never seen a front office or coaching staff just more straight up and blunt about needing to upgrade. Normally, it's we're going to evaluate what we have. Blah, 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 blah. They said, like Robert Saleh was like, we know we need to solve the quarterback position. Woody Johnson saying spare no expense, and this sounds like kind of more of the same. I have no doubt that Woody Johnson is fine to cut the check for the best guy they can get. I have no doubt Joe Douglas is willing to move the draft capital. I think people try and pin JD down like that's not a JD move. There's no such thing as a JD move. You know what a JD move is? It's disciplined, but it's opportunistic. Is trading 5 picks for a 29-year-old wide receiver a JD move? No, but he was willing to do it because you know what JD values? Hall of Fame game-breaking talent. He wanted that in Tyreek Hill. I know he wants it in Aaron Rodgers. I don't have the same fancy sources of Paul Boy Green, but in my bones, in my soul, when I wake up in the morning and I look into the clouds, I know Joe Douglas wants Aaron Rodgers. I know he does. I know he's willing to give up the picks. I know Woody Johnson is willing to spend the money. Does Aaron Rodgers want to play for the Jets, or do the Green Bay Packers want to trade him? No idea. I have zero idea.
Yeah.
But I fully believe that what Zach Rosenblatt is telling us, by hell or by high water, get a damn quarterback.
100%. I also, guys, it's not lost on me the irony of sharing that juicy tweet, and then when you scroll down to the article that's threaded below, that the featured image is Jacoby Brissett. Again, that clearly is not lost on me. I understand that when you
He's kind of trolling a little bit, right there, Zach?
What the hell? It has to be. I mean, quite frankly, I know it wasn't the lead headline, that Joe Douglas little nugget, but nonetheless, I do find that fascinating. And really, the article's interesting beyond the quote because he just evaluates the most realistic options. He said it isn't a prediction, it isn't this or that. He said this is just what I believe with how the Jets view it. And he has the top of the star guys. It'll be a second part of an article coming out later this week, but just kind of going through the realistic options the Jets could be going through. And we'll be going through some of that here as well. Guys, like I said, make sure you dive into the comment section. We'll get into the weird Zach Wilson leaks. It kind of went viral earlier today as well. But I think the latest thing I want to get to is the Derek Carr thing here, the Buffalo Jet fan joining us. So Derek Carr has been granted permission by, well, rather the New Orleans Saints have been granted permission to welcome in Derek Carr into the facilities. As far as I knew from a Saints person, he was still at the team facilities at this stage of night. I guess that's been essentially going on all day. And not only that, which is interesting, Ian Rappaport joined the Pat McAfee show, said the Saints are the clear front runners for Derek Carr's services, which I also found interesting, and that this is all very real. I ask you, Buffalo, on the Derek Carr thing, do you want the Jets to set up a meet? Now, what this ultimately means is this, for people who don't know. The Raiders and Saints kind of looked at each other and said, Raiders say something like this in terms of a trade, and Saints go, we might give something like that after we talk to Carr. So, I don't think he gets traded. But they only said that so they could then get kind of the first meeting ahead of free agency, and then we'll kind of see where it goes there. Do you want the Jets to set up a meeting with Derek Carr ahead of the time he is released?
Yes, I would like the Jets to do that. I mean, it's that word that is thrown out around this time of year over and over again. It's doing your due diligence. And I think that Derek Carr, of the quarterbacks that we know are going to be available, Derek Carr is the best on the market, right? Because we don't know about Aaron. We don't know about Lamar.
True.
Derek Carr, maybe you could argue Jimmy G, but I would say durability-wise, I think it's pretty fair to say Derek Carr is the best quarterback on the market. And it's interesting because you and I have been saying for a while, like Rodgers plan A, Carr plan B. But if you think about the timeline of things, it may not necessarily work out that way, because if Carr is to be traded, which I'm with you, I'm like 75% he's released, 25 he's traded. I just don't see the only party that the trade really benefits is the Raiders. Because if Carr is going to pick his team anyway, he can flip off the Raiders, cut me, I'll go make my new deal with my new team, and they can use that asset to build around me and whatever. Now, the only consideration would be, how confident is Derek Carr that he could get his same contract if on the open market? Like, that's the only variable. If Carr's agent is like, look, man, you might want to just keep the money that you have and have that team give up a third round pick. But we'll see. Yeah, but so if the 15th is coming up, and
Mhm.
it's ironic
It's
because
a week away. Yeah.
right when Derek Carr is going to be released or traded, and if he is going to be traded, it's probably going to be right up to the deadline because the Raiders are going to hold off hope and take every single offer right up until the last
Right.
minute before they cut him. And that's going to be when Aaron Rodgers in his hole in the dark, like Bane or whatever, like in the bottom in the dark night. And so, if Carr's going to be traded and you're waiting out on Rodgers, there goes Carr. So he can't really be Plan B if he's traded. Now I'll say this: uh, I'm willing to take the risk and not trade for Carr. I'm willing to do
Mm.
that and say, you know what, release him, because then if he's released, if then he can't sign with a team until the new league year, Derek Carr. So that's going to put a whole nother
Well,
three,
not
four.
true. Just to clarify, there is a loophole here, and it's important to know, and that's what I was going to talk about, is because Derek Carr being straight up released, again, if he's not traded, obviously, those are the only two options because they're not
Okay.
going to pay him. If he is cut ahead of that February 15th date, he can immediately sign with any team he wants. So there's a
Really?
loophole. So he does
How?
not have to wait for the new league year 100%. So that is a fascinating nugget. And why I wanted to lead into what you just said is that it seems crazy again because
Well,
everyone's
that
talking about
changes
Derek Carr
everything.
and the Saints meeting up, and that maybe he doesn't get the same on the open market. If he doesn't get the same, then I know nothing about football because with the uniqueness of that he could be available to sign with anyone ahead of time. Number one, that means everyone will have their full bank accounts because they can't spend it yet because the new league year is until March 13th or whatever the date is. So the fact of the matter is, I'd be surprised if Derek Carr didn't get a raise. When you think of all the teams that could potentially be interested, it's not like the Saints, the Raiders cut him and the Saints are like, okay, we're not interested anymore. That doesn't make any goddamn sense. Of course they would be. And so would other teams. So again, that is a loophole that some people are unaware of, that again, as soon as he gets cut, he's immediately free to sign with any team ahead of the new league year, which is unique loophole, which is
Hmm.
why some teams may want to say, we could sign or trade for Derek Carr way before, and we'll know exactly who our quarterback is before anyone else does.
So then, okay, so then either way, Derek Carr is going to be off the market fairly soon because he's not going to
Yes,
be on the
correct.
market more than 2 or 3 days, even if he's cut. So,
Probably. He may take visits, but even still, to the craziest extent, right? Like he's meeting with the Saints now. He gets cut. He meets with the Jets, and I'm making this up. It's not
right.
reported, but he meets up with a bunch of teams. Maybe he takes a week, but even
Yeah.
still, that will be well figured out before the new league year. So it's probably 3 weeks before anything at a minimum, if not more.
Man, that is, I didn't know that. That definitely
Mm.
changes things significantly. Oh man. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So again, some people are unaware of that fun fact, obviously, but yeah, that is true, and it's interesting. And I think really when we start to dive into this a little bit deeper, and I'm trying to figure out whether or not the Jets should again, because the Raiders and Saints have agreed to terms on what a trade could look like. Again,
Right.
it does not mean a trade's going to happen, but they basically said something like this, and they're like something like that, and then they just to allow them to talk to him. So they could just use this meeting as kind of a head start on free agency, so they could get some extra intel. Again, they have pretty good intel. The head coach of the Saints, Dennis Allen, was with Carr when he was drafted by the Raiders in the first place, but it is kind of a fascinating nugget in all of it, which leads us to, I guess, the question that I'm throwing out there, and we've discussed this before, but it feels even more so because obviously we'll talk about the Rodgers dark retreat to the Netherlands. We'll bring that up on the show. But are you willing to wait for Aaron Rodgers, knowing that obviously if you wait for Aaron Rodgers, and let me just add the other nugget, according to Aaron Rodgers, the dark retreat that is coming, he said on the Pat McAfee show this week for Super Bowl week, said the dark retreat that he wants to do where he's going to be in isolation and like a hut for 4 straight days of nothingness is happening in a couple weeks. So if that's happening in a couple weeks, and he said once he is released from said cave, he's going to have a decision. So that means if he's right with all his timing of how he was saying this, he's not going to have a decision on whether or not he wants to play football again or play for a different team for at least a couple more weeks. Derek Carr is going to be figured out, as we just discussed, a week and a half, 2 weeks maybe. So you're willing to wait knowing that you're going to essentially lose out on Derek Carr, but you have the chance for a guy like Aaron Rodgers. Straight up Buffalo, are you willing to wait?
No, not with now that I know
Wow.
that he's going to be likely signed before Aaron Rodgers makes his decision. I think before,
Correct, right.
when I was among the ignorance 5 minutes ago, I can't believe I didn't know that. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
I don't think I can do it. Now, it depends. I don't know what percent chance Joe Douglas thinks he has at landing Aaron Rodgers. If he thinks he has a 60% chance, then sure, wait. If it's a 15% chance, then no. But I would just go for Derek Carr. You sign him, you have your quarterback, because now if you miss out on Derek Carr, then Aaron Rodgers, you're flirting with him, and then people will just say, oh, well, then go get Jimmy G, or then go get this guy. And yes, we can have our list and we can go down, but not all those guys, spoiler alert, they have to sign the contract too. They want to have to come here. And now you're going down where, okay, Jimmy G doesn't want to come here. Then you're talking about Tannehill's and keep going down the list. I would at least make an offer to Carr. And then guess what? If he turns you down, or if it's crazy high price, then you just say, okay, whatever. Then you go ahead and you pursue Aaron Rodgers and you see where you're at from there. But I would make an offer to Derek Carr. I would.
All right. Well, let me throw up this nugget since we brought up Aaron Rodgers. Nice little flex here. We had none other than Matt Lombardo, NFL insider for Heavy.com. He joined me on my radio show earlier today and dropped this juicy nugget at the end of the interview. Quote, I know the Jets are all in on Rodgers. Or Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers. A-Rod is immersing himself in self-induced solitary confinement. I think after he comes out of that, he will find his way to the Big Apple. In other words, Matt Lombardo believes that from everyone he's talked to, and again, I had to condense it because Twitter, I don't have Twitter Blue. I don't pay for that, apparently, where you could get longer tweets, but I had to kind of, consolidate the tweet and the nugget. But essentially, Matt Lombardo said from the people he's spoken with around the league, he believes that the Jets are all in on Rodgers, and when he emerges from this weird experience, he will ultimately choose to play football, obviously, and then play for the New York Jets. That is the prediction from NFL insider Matt Lombardo. So, again, who knows what anybody knows, I guess, especially the weird guy like Aaron Rodgers, but he believes that you could get it. But I understand the risk, though, because, again, obviously Rodgers is going to have this decision made for a handful of weeks. And I don't know. I'm hearing a lot of disrespect in the streets for Derek Carr. Like, first off, that, I'm hearing from even some people I like say Derek Carr and the Jets are not a great fit, his personality and other things. And I don't know, man. I get some of the people that are saying it. I respected the business, but it just sounds like bullshit. I'm going to be honest. How the hell is Derek Carr not a good fit for the Jets? The weather thing doesn't make any goddamn sense. Not enough games of a sample size to me to make the difference one way or the other. And then the stats are pretty good. I don't think he's a game manager. I think that's insulting. I'm not saying he's a franchise changer and that you bring him in here and, oh, hell, move over, everybody. Derek Carr's here. But I think there's a solid in between there that Derek Carr is a dramatic upgrade for the Jets and that he is much better than a game manager. But I don't know.
Yeah, with Carr, it's like we can go back and forth between like, okay, here's the stats, and then here's what he's dealt with, here's his play. At the end of the day, he's a good quarterback. And if we're saying Derek Carr is trash, then we need to have better vocabulary, because then what we've had? That we need different words for those two things. Like, you can't say Zach Wilson is trash and Derek Carr is trash when Derek Carr is 1 year removed from 4,800 yards and near 70% completions and dragging a dumpster fire to the playoffs and going toe-to-toe with Joe Burrow down to the wire. You need a different word if that's trash. You can't even entertain people who say that because they haven't watched him. If he's trash, everyone's trash. People are nitpicking Aaron Rodgers' resume too. Only one Super Bowl, or this losing record and NFC champ. It's ridiculous, especially coming from Jets fans. It's insane. It's ridiculous. Apparently, Tom Brady is the only quarterback whose resume would be good enough for some of us. Derek Carr has been in his career anywhere from the 8th at his best to like the 18th best quarterback at his worst in the NFL. 2021, closer to 8. 2022, closer to 18. Where are you getting? Probably somewhere in the middle, the 11th, 12th best quarterback in the league, and a dude who doesn't miss games. Sign me up. Sign me up. I'm not saying he's a savior. You know where you get your savior? You get him at number 2 and 3 overall. We tried it. It didn't work. It's plan B, and you could do a lot worse at plan B than Derek Carr.
100%. And just to add into this, we've talked about this before, but I just think it's worth fully noting again with the Aaron Rodgers saga is that people said, well, look at his last year, which is this season that just ended. Like, man, Aaron Rodgers sucked. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, let's look at the sucked season. Oh, wait, it would be top 5 single season all time in every major Jets, categories. And not just that, he had a broken thumb. So he did all that in his bad season, which again, I just think he's changed the word. He raised such a high bar for what everyone expected of Aaron Rodgers. So when it was a little less than MVP, people were like, oh man, this is trash. Well, a lot better than our trash, because again, perhaps it's a reimagination of the vernacular, if that is indeed the case. To me, to answer my own question I presented to you, Buffalo, I'm willing to wait. And I get it. It's dangerous. And I think I would be very satisfied with Derek Carr. I'd be very satisfied with Derek Carr or Aaron Rodgers for that matter. I'd just be a lot more satisfied with Aaron Rodgers. And again, not to be insulting, but we just read the quote from the Zach Rosenblatt piece on The Athletic that Joe Douglas has been given the go-ahead to upgrade the quarterback position by any means necessary. And then if that's the quote, and then you end up with Derek Carr, it's kind of like, well, I mean, if you have any means necessary, I mean, if you have all the tools available, why not reach for the highest of highs? And I got to believe that inside the Jets building with the Nathaniel Hackett hire, not saying that Nathaniel Hackett hire means Aaron Rodgers. It didn't mean that for the Denver Broncos last year, but you have to have some inkling. And Zach Rosenblatt said this in a few places, and it hasn't picked up a lot of steam. For Nathaniel Hackett, who was set to be paid till we're in 2023 right now. He was set to be paid till 2027 if he did nothing. He could have went to one-way ticket to Thailand. The fact that he didn't, and he said, whoa, I'm coming to the Jets. Zach Rosenblatt says that says something to him, like he's got to know that the Jets either have a really good shot at somebody or they have a really good plan to get somebody enough that bought him in instead of going on vacation for the next 6 years or whatever it would have been, that he says, hey, I want to go for the Jets, which indicates to me perhaps that there's some inside thing, whether it's Aaron Rodgers or whoever the guys we will all see. None of us know 100% despite the people we talk to. Like that to me is a little something. Do you see a little something there? Or is that kind of, are we overrating that fun fact?
I don't know if it's something in terms of what other teams or other players are willing to do, i.e. Baltimore Ravens, i.e. Aaron Rodgers. Sure. But I do fully believe that within the Jets organization, they're ready to go full arms race and unload whatever. Like, I believe if the Ravens called up the Jets and were like, hey, 3 first-round picks for Lamar and you got to pay him, Deshaun Watson money, I think Lamar's a Jet. I think if the Green Bay Packers called up Joe Douglas and said, we're going to need a 1, a 2, a 5, a player we like, I think Aaron Rodgers is a Jet. Like that's so I think there's something there. Now, on the flip side of what the other teams or those players want to do, I have no idea, man.
That's fair enough. I want to bring this up because it's Super Bowl week. We'll get a Super Bowl pick, I'm sure, by the end of the show. But the interesting thing with Super Bowl week is Radio Row, although I don't think they call it that anymore because radio, not everyone's on. I know I do that for my day job. So I think they call it Media Row is what someone told me down there. So I guess get with the times, old man. But with Media Row being a thing, Jets players are all over the place. Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, of course. And they've been dabbling, let's just say, in some of the national shows, Rich Eisen show, the Maggie and Perloff, and some of these other ones. And I'm curious, Buffalo, what are your thoughts about all the recruiting that is happening here? Now, before you even answer that, obviously these people are asking them the question. Sauces are going on these shows and randomly saying, hey, guys, let's talk Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, they are asking him these questions. So that's important context when they're thus answering the questions, so we're only hearing the answers. But what do you make of this, that Sauce, Garrett Wilson, Mekhi Becton is another one on social media? I've not seen him at Media Row yet, but I've just seen some of his tweets. All these guys openly on social media, openly in these interviews saying, hey, it'd be pretty cool for him to come down. Sauce, a couple tweets and deleted tweets. Internet lasts forever and all that jazz. What do you make of all this palpable buzz that's going on for the recruiting trail?
Well, I love our rookies, man. I love Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson so much. The fact that they're that talented and they're just – Garrett Wilson is such a professional. I feel like I'm listening to like a 30-year-old veteran speak when he talks. Yeah, I think they understand that the Jets, they understand, number one, Garrett was talking about how he actually said the Jets are better than the Raiders straight up. He was saying how the Jets had, look at the
Yeah, I
young
love
talent,
that.
look at the
That was a great
analytics.
clip.
He said, he pretty much implied all the pieces are there besides quarterback, and that's what he said. And Sauce came out and he actually retracted it, and he had Zach Wilson's back, and I appreciate it. It was a good teammate. He said Zach's still on the team, saying how Zach was looking amazing, and Zach was picking apart Sauce in practice, which, okay. Okay, Ahmad. That's you just being a good teammate, and we appreciate it. But I like the confidence because this team is hungry, and they know Aaron Rodgers, and they're playing meaningful football games into January, and dare I say February. Love to see it.
I just have to say this for the people, because again, social media is only so short. In all the interviews I've seen of Media Row, where Sauce has done an interview, Garrett Wilson, and those are the two prime examples. So when they're asked this magical Aaron Rodgers question, because players don't get charged for tampering in that same way, as opposed to you ask Joe Douglas, hey, you messed around with Aaron Rodgers? No, of course, I can't say that. But the players can be free willy. I would say in all of those, for all the people that have tried to gotcha, ask him about Aaron Rodgers, and they don't immediately say the Zach Wilson, or it's not featured in the clip, they're like, oh, wow, trashing this kid. In all the interviews I've seen, the first time, because these media members keep asking them the same question in a lot of different ways to try to get a different answer. Every time I've heard Sauce or Garrett Wilson asked about Aaron Rodgers or magical insert quarterback, they go, well, Zach Wilson's our guy, and he's our dude. So they seem to be saying the right things, and then they go, but your question was Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, that'd be fun. I'd be excited. I'd be blah, blah, blah. And then we're just clipping that and going, wow, Zach Wilson, what a scumbag. Wow, obviously his teammates hate his guts. So I just want to kind of lay that out there for context that we don't normally get on social media, that it seems kind of trash. Sauce and Garrett Wilson, I've seen, have gotten a lot of crap for not defending their guy, but they did. It just didn't make the viral social media clip. So just kind of want to throw that out there as well. Not that we're some sort of Zach Wilson apologist on the show, but I think that's kind of important to note too.
I will say this: neither of us are find ourselves in the Zach Wilson apologist camp as a player. I do think it got to the point where it felt like sort of a character assassination of Zach towards the end of last year, where again with the no comment responding to Connor Hughes, I thought it was a little overblown. I didn't like it. Obviously, you got to do better. But to me, it was really the play that stuck out with Zach. And remember the beginning of the year that CJ Uzomah at the time of the Man of the Year shirts, and he's at Titan University. He's in Idaho with the boys and all this. Zach's got that dog in him, right? And the thing is that only goes so far. Your play on the field has to match up to it, and it didn't. And I don't think that the Jets hated Zach Wilson. I thought that they wanted the best chance to win, and they wanted the best player to play at every position. And at some point throughout the year, everybody knew that wasn't Zach. I don't think it was personal.
Yeah. All right. Because we brought up Zach Wilson, let's bring up the viral thing from earlier today. Oh my, the Zach Wilson leak. I'm going to throw this up. It's on my Twitter account, guys. So feel free to check it out. It was from a Rich Cimini column. He did a deep dive on essentially why Zach Wilson hasn't worked out with the Jets. Why is it? And I saw this quote and I'm like, oh, well, we got to tweet that one out. And it's this. Mike LaFleur, along with Rex Hogan, this is pre-draft meetings, and it says that in here. Mike LaFleur, again, former Jets offense coordinator, and Rex Hogan, the assistant general manager of the Jets, were in 2021 draft meetings inside the Jets building, selling the narrative that there was a legitimate argument that Zach Wilson was better than eventual number one overall pick Trevor Lawrence, one source said. Some of us in the room, so I'm adding a little bit of context here, were like, what the fuck? It's one thing to like a player. It's another thing to pump up a prospect up higher than he actually is. And I have a long column on this. You guys could check it out on heavy.com. But really, the thing I just want to kind of circle all of this into is it's interesting that Zach Rosenblatt had a deep dive of his own on the Mike LaFleur-Zach Wilson relationship, and that caught a lot of buzz a few weeks ago. And in that, Mike LaFleur complained. I don't know if it was a direct Mike LaFleur thing or how Zach Rosenblatt got his sources, but in it, it says that Mike LaFleur is like, ugh, oh man, anytime another quarterback is in my offense, kills it. And Zach Wilson, the relationship sour, the relationship got annoying, and all these other terminology, which you guys can check out the full column. So I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but he was like, man, one of the things he said is my offense is constrained by Zach Wilson. Yet apparently, according to this Rich Cimini deep dive, he was pounding the table saying Zach Wilson was better than Trevor Lawrence. So how on one side of your ass are you saying like, oh man, Zach Wilson's the second coming of everything, and I'm the offensive coordinator in my first year, Zach Wilson's going to be the guy. Then a year later, he's like, screw this scrub. He's holding back everything I've got. It just seems kind of weak sauce. It seems kind of cheap to have those kind of dynamics, because if you're a coach and you pick this talented piece of clay to quote unquote give up on him after a year, sounds like maybe the Jets fired the right guy in Mike LaFleur. I don't know. What say you, Buffalo?
Yeah, I think with that whole draft, Trevor Lawrence was the number one for so long that you get people who have to just kind of go swim upstream and say something different. Chris Sims, right? Famous example. Oh, actually, like, no, dude, it's okay. It's okay. Everyone can agree sometimes, and everyone can agree that Trevor Lawrence is the number one pick. It was clear. Zach Wilson has never been better at football than Trevor Lawrence a day in their life since they were both born. Everybody knows that. Mike LaFleur, it's interesting how people have really extreme opinions about him, and I'm very apathetic towards Mike LaFleur. I think that maybe he was scapegoated because they picked a bad quarterback, but at the same time, the offense didn't score a touchdown the last 13 quarters of the season. And there were obvious flaws in the way that the offensive game plan was constructed. It felt like to me he was inconvenienced by having to develop a young quarterback. Maybe Zach Wilson is so bad he couldn't be developed, but why was he regressed almost? Like, a lot of Zach's best film is from his rookie year. So to me, even if he was never going to be a franchise quarterback, he should have been not a franchise quarterback, but better, but improving, but not completely unplayable and a shot fighter. Like, if we're going to chalk none of that up to coaching, then we're just going to say coaching doesn't matter, which is completely ridiculous. I'm not crying tears that Mike LaFleur is gone. You know, good luck to him. He's probably just a young guy who was promoted a little bit too soon, but I'm not, up at night thinking that we're missing out on some offensive genius that Mike LaFleur is gone. Give me a break.
By the way, total bullshit. I just have to throw this out there for all the people who are commenting in that Mike LaFleur is never a Zach Wilson guy. There is no way in hell. Robert Saleh's hired. His first big hire was bringing Mike LaFleur with him. Mike LaFleur, first-time offensive coordinator, first-time play caller with the New York Jets. And obviously they're picking the quarterback for his offense in the very first offseason. That's when Zach Wilson was drafted. And you're telling me that, like, Mike LaFleur goes, oh, no, Zach Wilson sucks. And the rest of the team goes, well, sorry, you're going to get Zach Wilson no matter what. There is no way. That is total bullshit. So all the people that are spewing that crap out on social media, that's a total fallacy. That's totally made up. About Mike LaFleur not being a Zach Wilson guy in the pre-draft. Because if he wasn't, then it's absolute malice by the New York Jets that they force Zach Wilson on Mike LaFleur, but that's just not true. They wouldn't do that. That would put the offensive coordinator, a first-time play caller, in a horrible position. They wouldn't get at least some say, let alone no say, apparently, in who the quarterback is. So, again, I know Zach Wilson diatribes, who's probably going to be the QB2 or QB3 this year, probably lacks a little bit of luster at this point, but it was a trending story today, and I think worth mentioning. But I just feel like that part of it is absolute garbaggio. And I just hope that we could just kind of all establish that and kind of wipe that clean, because I think that's total trash bags.
Yeah, I would agree. I think they all were. I liked Zach Wilson. I was excited when the Jets drafted Zach.
Yes,
a lot of people did, but the Jets were not. It wasn't like some sort of shocking pick where people were like, "Whoa!" Like it was with Mitch Trubisky. You know what I mean? Right. Or Daniel Jones.
Or Nobody Jake Locker, or all these guys, historically speaking. Right.
Could name a lot of guys. And I think that the conventional wisdom says if Zach's not picked by the Jets at 2, he's a 49er. And, they know what they're doing out there. So it is what it is. I think that we try to make sense of it. There's got to be someone to blame. Sometimes you just take a guy who's never going to be one of the top 10 people in the world at his job. Is what it is.
Which, again, by the way, even if he wasn't, again, the top in his... obviously he wasn't. So Zach Wilson was not this like top remarkable quarterback in terms of delivering on the field NFL production. I'm not just talking about talent, but because he had the talent and Mike LaFleur selected him and he knows his own offense and he picked him of the crew because he had anyone not named Trevor Lawrence available to him. At the very least, there should have been some level of a floor there that he should have been able to get more out of Zach Wilson. And thus, again, how everything ended up finishing up, too, I think just kind of speaks to it as well. But, again, that's neither here nor there. Again, I believe it would be, which I guess I'll use this question before we jump into the fans, is Part of Zach Rosenblatt's piece we talked about earlier included the worst case scenario for the New York Jets if they swing and miss on everybody, which, by the way, we have to at least throw
Yeah,
out
you
there.
got to
I'm an
plan for.
optimistic guy. I'm a glass half full. I'm an orange soda half bottle full here guy. And I just have to say that I believe they're going to land whoever their quarterback is. I want Aaron Rodgers. Who knows if they feel similarly. But I believe they're going to land their guy. But there's at least a chance that they don't, that Jimmy G, Derek Carr, Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson stays, that everyone goes where they are, and then the Jets are sifting through the crap pile to try to figure out their quarterback. I think, Buffalo, we've talked about this in the past, but to reestablish it, what is your worst case scenario QB1 in 2023 in your mind, realistically speaking?
Probably Jacoby Brissett, and I don't want to. I like Jacoby Brissett. I do. I think that he's serviceable. I think he's a solid pro, but I think, and hey, if we had Jacoby Brissett, Jacoby Brissett would have been the perfect quarterback to have for the Jets in 2021, Zach's rookie year, right? And
Sure.
remember we traded to bring Flacco in late in the year. We had no legitimate competition. Jacoby Brissett last year on the Jets for 17 games, dude, we might be the 5 seed. Seriously, like compared to what we had. Do we win both Patriots games? Yeah. Do we beat the Lions? Yeah. On and on and on. Yeah, we win probably 3 or 4 more games with Jacoby Brissett. But man, there's just a really firm ceiling with a guy like that. And then if you want to throw in, I don't know. I think maybe Tannehill could be in that same tier because I think those guys are both below Jimmy G in the top 3. And I think that with guys like that, your ceiling is a pretty swift first round exit. Now maybe you squeak into the playoffs and then maybe that buys 2 guys I like in Saleh and JD some more job security, but then you're just spinning your wheels again and you're not going to be bad enough to have a top pick to go get the kid from USC or whatever. So we're just doing this
Caleb
all
Williams,
right, Caleb, and then we're just doing this all again next year. It's so exhausting. That's probably the worst case scenario, although nothing personal against Jacoby Brissett.
No, I'm in a similar ballpark. I'd love to go sexier and say some other name, but I think it is Jacoby Brissett because, again, with how the Jets have framed, they've backed themselves into a corner where Woody Johnson says, "Oh, we're getting a veteran," and the missing piece is the term he used. Robert Sauer, we are pursuing a veteran quarterback. Like he essentially said that was the plan with Nathaniel Hackett, and to miss on everybody. I don't think you could go back to Mike White. I don't think you could sell veteran quarterback, proven guy, and then go, well, Mike White. I think Mike White ultimately probably follows Mike LaFleur to L.A. and goes with the Rams, and he's a backup. And with the Rams, it's a better position. He's a QB2 on the Rams with a injured ass Matthew Stafford. We'll see what happens with Baker Mayfield, who's a free agent. But I think that's his better path. He's like, I could see the PT a lot clearly here, and I feel better in a brand new situation than this Nathaniel Hackett offense, whatever it is. So I feel like it would be a veteran no matter what. And then it's probably shoulder shrug, Jacoby Brissett. And then just they sell us on the defense, running game. Everyone's so good that like we don't need anybody crazy. He just does his job. Look what he did with the Browns last year.
And then people like you and me are going to try and cope with it and try and
we will.
Oh man,
I will tell you this was a private conversation. So again, I do Jets work, and we're doing a lot of graphic imaging changes because of some of the like before the season. This is super behind the curtain that people don't want to know, but. Like on our Facebook page, on the Heavy on Jets Facebook page, we have these like Jet players that are highlighted of like, ooh, look at this. But you don't want to leave like scrub players on there. So like Zach Wilson was one of the players, and obviously he looks like he's going to be like QB2 or QB3. So we have this graphic imaging team that's kind of combing through, and they just changed it out of Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, all these sexy players, and they said, hey. When the Jets get a quarterback, we're probably going to change that again. And I said, I can't wait to buy my Jacoby Brissett Gotham Green jersey. And I said, I'm kidding, I hope. And but that could be where we're at. The other name, I think you're right, though, is Ryan Tannehill. Because if the Jets miss out on everybody, we'll see what the Titans do. Carthon, the new Titans general manager, has to make a decision. But from what I've heard from Titans people, it wouldn't cost much to pry Tannehill away from them so they can go forcibly in a different direction. I've heard a 4th-round pick. I've heard even a conditional 3rd. somewhere in that ballpark, like not conditional third going up to a second, like conditional pick that could become a third. Like I'm hearing like it's like that kind of package potentially for Tannehill, and I could see that if the Jets swing and miss on everybody, they're like, well, Tannehill, and then again try to sell us in that same way. So it sucks just to piggyback off of everything the handsome the Buffalo Jet fan said, but I truly believe that's where we're at. Guys, keep the comments coming. We'll go with some mailbag here, certainly to end the show. And I'll throw this one right at you, Buffalo, from BC. The problem is we're not a quarterback away. That's the problem. Offensive line issues, etc. Buffalo, do you agree with our friend BC here? Are the Jets not a quarterback away?
Well, it depends on a quarterback away from what, and what quarterback away. Like a quarterback, okay, are Jacoby Brissett away, and Aaron Rodgers away, and Derek Carr away? Yeah. I think that a lot of Jets fans are going under the assumption that we're not going to do anything else the offseason. Yeah. Oh, this offensive line. Paul Boyd Green, what if I told you, and I know I've been known to give a hot take or two, the Jets could upgrade at quarterback and clutch your pearls offensive line in the same offseason.
Wait, what?
I know. I checked. I'm going to double check the bylaws. But I think they can do it. Now, especially if you sign Derek Carr, you don't have to give up picks. Obviously, if you give up a lot of draft capital for Rodgers, that would hamstring you a little bit. But if you sign Derek Carr, you still have pick 13. Boom, there's an offensive lineman. AVT back. Boom. Think about just that. Think about the talent injection of one of the top 3 offensive linemen in the draft and AVT. That's 40% of your offensive line getting a huge talent injection. And the defense is already top 5. So if you have a 20, and with Breece Hall, we were running the ball for 5 yards a clip. The only area of the team that was consistently awful was passing offense. And you can go through game by game last year and say, okay, if we had a dude who could hit a pass, even with the offensive line crapping the bed, you can easily paint a picture where we could have had 10 wins and been in the playoffs. So I don't know. I think, are we supposed to just wait until we're the 49ers and we have an all-pro at like every single position and one of the top 3 offensive minds, a head coach in the league? I think that a lot of these things on the roster would shift into place too. How good is Garrett Wilson with a really good quarterback? How good can Elijah Moore exist? Can CJ Uzama become Bengals CJ Uzama? We don't know. Tyler Conklin could get 80 catches and 10 touchdowns from Aaron Rodgers.
I could see that.
Questions asked. No questions asked. So look, if we add, no matter what quarterback we add, are we going to be Super Bowl favorites? No. No matter what quarterback we add, you know what? Probably we're not even going to be favored to win our division against the Buffalo Bills. But a significant upgrade, in particular in Carr or Rodgers. And I think that we're in the playoffs, and you got a ticket to the dance. You got a shot. We could play with Buffalo last year. We can hang with them. Look what the Cincinnati and the Chiefs game. Joe Burrow had 4 turnover-worthy play. What, we can't put up 20 points? Is that what it took to win that game? Derek Carr can't, or Aaron Rodgers can't put up 20 points against the Chiefs? Again, I wouldn't predict us to go to Cincinnati or to go to Kansas City and beat them with Derek Carr, but you got a damn puncher's chance if we get a massive upgrade at quarterback. I disagree that we're significantly behind in overall roster talent than a lot of the other teams in the AFC.
Yeah, I think a key part of what you said is, again, a quarterback, who's the quarterback? Those things expand beyond the question. Again, BC, I understand that's also hard from your side to try to articulate in a singular question, but I would be in that same camp. Who is the quarterback? Number 2, I will add and kind of morph what Buffalo said. So like an Aaron Rodgers, in theory, if you trade for him, he will cost a lot more assets than the next possible guy. And that could, quote unquote, hamstring you. I would interpret it in a different way. If you get Aaron Rodgers, because of how much better he is than Carr, while the picks you're giving up for Rodgers are more, the more talent that Aaron Rodgers can provide, the more things he could do, the more deficiencies he can mask because he's the quarterback instead of Derek Carr. So I think, whoever you get, there are pros and cons to each of those players. So I would aggressively push back on the fan base in general. So BC, sorry to generalize you with all the fans that have pushed back against getting a quarterback and again have pushed for this 49ers thing of being 3 deep at every position and being at that point, and then you can reverse build your roster and then insert the perfect quarterback. And I would go back to this. I had this debate with someone about the whole Zach Wilson pick in general earlier today. They said, well, again, if you picks, if you stuck with Sam Darnold and traded back, you got Jamar Chase, Penei Sewell, any of those guys, you say, man, the Jets would be in such a better position. And I say, not so sure, because if you would have traded back and Sam Darnold sucked, as I think a lot of us would have anticipated him sucking in that same way in the Zach Wilson rookie season, that means last offseason, the Jets would have been in on Russell Wilson. Who knows if that blows up and all of a sudden you're hamstrung for the next 4 or 5 years if Russell Wilson would stink in the same way. So it's easy to try to cherry pick one thing and then leave all the rest of the history the same, because when you take something out, there are ripple effects to everything that happens. And do the Jets in the draft, because Sam Darnold sucks and they have to go, do they go Kenny Pickett, who was the only quarterback that went in the first round? Do they go Desmond Ridder? Do they go Malik Willis? Do they have the same Christian Hackenberg, Bryce Petty thing? Well, we drafted one of those guys, so we have to give him another year or two to develop. We can't suddenly draft and replace him with somebody else the next offseason, and all of a sudden we're back in the purgatory. So I don't think it's so easy and perfect to say if the Jets would have done this or the Jets would have done that, they'd be in this better position. I just think, again, all of that to uncork a Pandora's box of the very first question on here, I think part of that needs to be accepted.
But I think there's also, it's like there's two sides to that coin, because I've also heard on the flip side is that, well, you know, this Jets team has shown that we don't need a really good quarterback to win. We just need a, and it's like that to me is this pendulum is swinging too far. Nobody, you know, well, if we would have had, and also, if we would have had Mike White played all the games last year, winning these, you can't plan on it repeating itself that way. That's no team's plan A. No team's plan A is having a mid to below average quarterback and just building the roster around it. That happened to the 49ers, and then they were able to withstand it, but they traded 3 first-round picks to get Trey Lance. That's nobody's plan A. That's not how any GM operates. Every GM is trying to find that quarterback by hell or high water. The Jets are going to be no different. That's not what they're going to want to do.
All right, let's talk about the reverse here. Another really good question coming in, and you know, you may scoff at this, Buffalo, so I'm waiting to throw it up to kind of just allow it to simmer a second. There is a chance that Aaron Rodgers goes into the darkness and comes out with one of two things. He retires straight from football, and then I guess that's a completely different situation. Or he says, you know what, I'm coming back playing for the Green Bay Packers. Let's figure it out. I'll be honest. Last year, when all this Aaron Rodgers drama was happening, I'm like, there's no way he goes back. That is toxic. There's no way he comes back. He is going somewhere. I don't know where, but it ain't for the Packers. And they figured it out. So maybe that can happen again. God knows. And if that happens, the belief is that Jordan Love would request a trade. Now, I ask you, Buffalo, any interest whatsoever in Jordan Love, who in his spot starts have shown glimpses, certainly, but not really a proven thing. So it'd be an interesting dart throw. And again, his 5th-year option, Jordan Love's, would have to be decided in early May. That would be following the 2023 NFL draft. So you'd have to make that decision as part of the package. Very Sam Darnold-esque. That's what the Panthers did after they traded for him. They exercised the 5th-year option to have 2 years of control. Any interest, Jordan Love, from Randia on our YouTube page?
To me, Jordan Love is just a complete unknown. So
sure, fair. Yes.
I would say no. Now, the advantage is he's still on a really cheap contract.
Correct.
But you throw him in there with Zach Wilson, you just don't know what you have. And I think that I don't think Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas have the leash to do that, you know. And again, I'm not saying I want it to be this way. I think people misconstrue that. I saw Matt O'Leary make this mistake on Twitter today. I love Joe Douglas, but rarely do GMs get a third swing at quarterback. This is Joe Douglas' second swing, and I don't think that second swing is going to be Jordan Love. Maybe he thought, what did he go to, Utah? I think.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe Joe
Utah
Douglas
State
was in love with Jordan Love at Utah State and had him as, you know, whatever, the second best prospect on his board, and then maybe there you go. But personally, I just don't know if he can play, so I can't take a chance on it. I think you have to get somebody more established.
And just to add to that, you say that, like, you know, some general managers, you know, don't get 3 swings. Some general managers don't get 2 swings. Right. Some general managers swing and miss on Zach Wilson and they're fired, which some people even advocated for this offseason. Yeah, you could say most. So I think that's interesting to note as well. Me, just real quick on this, I'm in a similar ballpark. I've had enough of the unknown. I've had enough of door number 2. I want door number 1. I want to know what we're getting. It's fun. I guess, for lack of a better word, every offseason go, who the hell's starting this year? Man, exciting options. I can't imagine how it is to be a Green Bay Packers fan for 30 years. You said, I guess it's Brett Favre. I guess it's Aaron Rodgers. Every gosh darn day, no speculation required. But, so it's kind of interesting. For me, I think Jordan Love is fascinating as a prospect coming out of Utah State, and he's had the development stages, but I'm not willing to dive into that again. That's not the guy, if I was in Joe Douglas' position, where I'm getting fired if it doesn't work. Let's bring up this with TJ Decker. I know a lot of Jet fans feel this way, so we can kind of put all this together. Who's saying, I'm not pounding the Derek Carr. I'm not pounding the table for Derek Carr, nor am I slamming the door on it. Why is it the Jets aren't looking at him? It's not that the Jets aren't looking at him. I think they're slow playing it like everybody else. Now, there could be danger in that because if Derek Carr is meeting with the Saints and he's willing to shred his contract, which from what I've heard is the last snafu in all of this, if a team is willing to completely, or Derek Carr rather, is completely willing to rework his deal, then all of a sudden a trade is possible. If Derek Carr's like, screw that, I refuse to do it. Those are conversations I don't know between Derek Carr and his agent on what they believe they could get. I think it would be a mistake if he did not reach the open market, because I think, again, with everyone having their full checkbooks available, how in the hell could you not with the scarcity of the quarterback position? But again, maybe the Jets regret this and then he never leaves the Saints building and they figure it all out. But it's not that the Jets aren't looking at him. They are. They're doing their due diligence on all the big names, but they just haven't been as aggressive yet, and I think part of it is the Aaron Rodgers factor. But I do believe the Jets are looking at him, but we will see if they get a possibility to host him. And again, according to Greeny, we tweeted that clip out a couple of days ago. The level of aggressiveness or lack thereof with Derek Carr will tell you about their Aaron Rodgers pursuit. If they show no interest in Derek Carr, from what Greeny's people have said and sources he's spoken to, they're all in on Aaron Rodgers, and that's something in terms of return factor potentially for that. So
all news is good news. If they're going for Derek Carr, hey, maybe we get Derek Carr. If they're not going for Derek Carr, they think they can get Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, 100%. So I think that's a part of it to be excited about and also worried about, because again, there's where we will then, if the Jets miss out on Derek Carr, we'll be waiting for this random 4-day shadow retreat that we may or may not hear anything on, which makes this kind of wild. Oh wow, we're having people just discovering us, which is great. NY Jets superfan, what's up, boys? I just found you guys. Go Jets. By the way, Buffalo's YouTube description is down below. We alternate. I think we're the only show that does this. I know no one else who does this, where me and Buffalo do this show.
Maybe that's a bad sign.
Yeah, that's probably true. No one else has done this. Put the flag on the moon. And they're like, well, there's a reason nobody else does it, which may be true. But however, it is once a week on my show, which we're doing right now live on a Wednesday. And then next week it'll be on Buffalo. So we alternate back and forth. His YouTube channel is down below. He's got many more subscribers than me. And some have said more handsome. That is for you to decide. But make sure you hit the subscribe button nonetheless. And also throw me a pity like. We will accept that as well. So thanks for joining. This is spectacular. So I really appreciate that. Let's I got to throw this in here from John Mulroy on our Facebook page, a Heavy on Jets page. Mike White's ribs will heal. That's our backup plan. What do you think about bringing Mike White back? I mentioned it earlier. I don't think he's coming back. The money I think would be better elsewhere from what I'm hearing. And I think he's going to want a fresh start with some new stuff going on. But what say you, Buffalo?
The only way I can see that we bring Mike White back if we have Jimmy G as the starter, if it goes that way, because you have to invest in a pretty decent backup if you have Jimmy G as your starter. But yeah, I don't see it. I think Mike White might command a little bit more money than the Jets would like to for a backup, because if you bring in Derek Carr for close to $40 million, Zach's making $10 million. You pay Mike White $6 million. Like you're paying Mahomes money to have Derek Carr as your quarterback. So I think if it's Carr, he's so dang durable. Hopefully you can turn Zach into. Look, again, I'm not a Zach truther, but man, with a new offensive coordinator, third year, we can't turn him into a backup. Let's figure that out. So yeah, I say it's more likely that Mike White leaves unless we go the Jimmy G route, which you need to have a good backup quarterback. But then Mike White, look, if Jimmy G's your starter, Mike White gets hurt too. So then Zach will, it's the same thing the 49ers went through. So I don't know, man. That's why I don't want Jimmy G.
And that's also why, because like if you go with Jimmy G, I will assume one of two things happen. First off, you just straight up missed out on your quarterback. So I guess there's nothing you could do about that. Or you weren't willing to do the money thing because, again, Carr is going to be relatively expensive, I imagine. And Garoppolo, from what I'm hearing, it kind of has varied. Brad Spielberger has projected a 1 year, $15 million deal. Other people I've heard have said anywhere from 20 to 25. But if you think you're saving money with Jimmy G, you're really not. Because let's say they pay him a 2-year deal for $20 million per. You have to get a really good backup because Jimmy G's durability history. So you're paying Mike White, let's call it 2 years, 5 to 7 per. Then you just throw the Zach Wilson money that's already in. You're paying the same amount of as a Derek Carr and Aaron Rodgers. You're just doing it in a weird way. So I think that's another part of it where all of a sudden a lot of money starts getting dumped into quarterback and you're not feeling as good about it as you should. Steve 232, it's a done deal. Aaron Rodgers already here, Buffalo. So what are we even talking about? Let's go home. Aaron Rodgers is a gosh darn New York Jet. It's a done deal. We just need to talk about what the price package is going to be. Which, by the way, what's your gut say on that? How much do you, if we get Aaron Rodgers, or if he's traded really to anyone, what do you believe the trade package ultimately is for Rodgers?
2 1s.
I do too. That's what I think. I could see maybe a 1-3 and the 3's conditional. It could become a 1 or something.
Yeah,
based
maybe
on
a 1 and
playing
something
time or
else
ascension.
conditional. But if you look at Paul, if you look at what was on record as I know this is bad podcasting, but I just want to find it super quick. The Denver Broncos trade offer for Rodgers just a season ago. Now I know he was a year younger and he's coming off of an MVP, but the Rodgers offered a 2 1s and a 2 last offseason. So it's hard for me to think that he devalued more than a whole second round pick. You know?
That's a very fair way to put it. Buffalo, I don't know how you are with impressions, but I'm seeing this from Rundia. What if Rodgers gets consumed by the darkness? Do you have any Bane thing you could do for us here? And what if that option happens?
Or perhaps he's wondering why you would shoot a man before throwing him out of an airplane.
That's good. That's why Buffalo joins us on the show. That is spectacular. So that is a third option. I guess we have not considered in all of this as well. So that's always possible. I'm seeing a lot of fear of Derek Carr potentially. Like he must be like, and I didn't realize this, one of the most polarizing players in the NFL. I'm seeing some people in the chat say they hate Derek Carr. He sucks. He's a scrub. I'm seeing others say, man, he's so good. The Jets need to sign him. What the hell are we doing? And then some people in the middle or that are just saying like, or they're pessimistic, like Derek Carr is clearly going to sign with another team. We're going to regret it forever. So there is a lot of all over the place on Derek Carr, which is just interesting to me. Very interesting. As I'm filtering.
It's funny because it's so like he has such a long body of work that it's like, we know it shouldn't be so polar. He's Derek Carr. He's a good quarterback. That's it. He's not 100%. Great. He's not trash. He's durable. Yeah. He can't. No, he's not Andrew Luck. He's not going to come in here and take a 2-win roster and say, get on my back and go to the playoffs. I think like what he did in 2021, I think we have such recency bias with him and Aaron Rodgers. Like Aaron Rodgers is 2 years removed from one of the most impressive quarterback seasons ever. Like 70% completions, 40-something touchdowns, 7 picks. And Derek Carr, again, in 2021, 4,800 yards, completion percentage near 70. And that team did not want to go to the playoffs. And Derek Carr said, too bad. Their coach is fired mid-year. Their number one wide receiver is involved in the tragic death of somebody. The defense couldn't stop a nosebleed, to quote Bart Scott. And he's in the playoffs, and it's down to 4th down with a couple minutes left against the eventual AFC champions in Joe Burrow. If a Jets quarterback did that, they would be. Imagine if Mike White did that this year. Like they would have a statue outside of.
Of course,
there are Jets fans who tell me Mike White is better than Derek Carr. A lot of them. I just don't understand it, man.
Come on. Yeah, and I'm just seeing random comments here. I'm just going to read a bunch of them in a row. Carr isn't top 10. You guys are idiots. Carr is clearly top 10, guys. Get on the bandwagon. These are all just different people. I'm just reading random things here on the Derek Carr thing. That is spectacular. I will just ask you, I haven't seen this question, but how attractive is it to you, Buffalo, that Derek Carr is like 31 years of age, and that if you acquired a Derek Carr, that not only is he your quarterback this year, next year, and whatever the contract would say, but realistically, he's at least your quarterback for 3, 4, 5 years, as opposed to Aaron Rodgers should be a year-to-year thing, probably. And then who's the other? No, I guess that's the only real old guy that we're considering that I'm not thinking of. Everyone else is kind of off the board. So yeah, so like Aaron Rodgers is potentially year to year, and Derek Carr is a potential 3, 4, 5 year guy. How attractive is that to you in the Derek Carr conversation?
Yeah, I like it. I think that your prime as a quarterback is probably up till like 35. Now, obviously, Brady's changed it for everyone. Rodgers is so
Yes,
great. He
right.
won an MVP at 38. But I think for normal guys, like around 36, you start to see that. Like Matt Ryan, like, whoo, right off of a cliff. But yeah, I
Yeah,
like that. And and we have, it would be set up nicely with guys like Sauce and Brees and Garrett on their rookie contracts while you're paying Carr. So the plan was you have Zach on the rookie contract, and then you can be aggressive, right, and sign all these guys. But now you kind of have to
right.
do the inverse, maybe where you have a quarterback that you're paying a good amount of money who's not great, but then you supplement with all these. You have the number one corner in the NFL on a rookie contract. You have Garrett Wilson, who next year, if he's a top 5 receiver in the NFL, if he's the fifth or sixth best receiver in the NFL, I'm not shocked on a rookie deal, and so on. So yeah, I think there's also the flip side. Do you want to marry yourself to a middle of the road quarterback? Look, you
That's
got to
true.
give me some other options too. You don't. Derek Carr. Most off seasons, a quarterback as good as Derek Carr does not become available. So then what are we doing? Are we going back to the draft? I don't know. I Just some competence and professionalism and consistency and durability at the quarterback position is something I greatly value, and I think Derek Carr would. It's crazy that we have to say this. Like none of this is really a hot take about Derek Carr.
Yeah.
He's pretty good quarterback. That's it.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is a unique name and avatar for that matter, explosive diarrhea. But do we find a
That's
quarterback
lovely.
before WrestleMania? And this may be one of the easiest questions we've answered on here for our non wrestling fans in attendance. The WrestleMania is now
Oh,
multiple
Jake Asman
days.
was in the
Thank
chat.
Yeah. Oh, was he? I'll sneak
Yeah.
back in on him. And so COVID caused WrestleMania to be on multiple days. Now it's an entire weekend. It is April 1st and April 2nd. I'd be flabbergasted if the Jets don't have that answer before then. That would be wild. We're talking 2.5 weeks after the league year kicking off. That to me would be stunning if the Jets don't have their answer at quarterback by that point. Are you in a similar boat here, Buffalo?
Um, when is
So we're April
WrestleMania?
1st.
April. Oh yeah. Oh
April
no, you
1st,
gotta
April
have it figured
2nd.
out. You gotta have it figured
Yeah,
out by then
okay.
because
Okay.
the legal tampering starts the 13th, league year on the 15th. Like we talked about before, Derek Carr's gonna be gone by even the start of the new league year with his contract loophole there, and then you have to imagine Rodgers. And the only thing I consider is if Rodgers really wants to be just drag this thing out completely, and up
Right.
until like the draft, then maybe. But if the Jets don't have a quarterback by April 1st, then it truly is like Rodgers or bust, like complete bust, like Rodgers or
Right.
Zach is your day one starter. Because even by then, the guys that we don't even want, Tannehill's and Brissett's, those guys are all signed by April
Figured
1st.
out.
So
Yeah.
yeah, no, you got to have it figured out by then.
1,000%. Let me ask you a couple of quickies on Aaron Rodgers, and I see we have a Jake Asman super chat in here, which made me chortle, and I'll see if it does the same effect for you guys.
Does it cut the
Aaron
line?
Rodgers, yeah, that's true. Aaron Rodgers on the Pat McAfee show said that he is legitimately still contemplating retirement, that it's still
Okay.
among the options. And Pat McAfee, like Scott said, like, come on. That's not true. And Aaron Rodgers is like, no, I'm dead serious. I don't care that JJ Watt and Tom Brady both retired this offseason. I'll go in the Hall of Fame with him. I don't give a flying hoot. Like, it is still an option. Do you think he is seriously still considering retirement, or is that all bullshit?
I don't believe him at all. Number one,
I don't either. There's
the
no way.
ego thing with Brady, I don't believe him on that. And all these things I'll say, I still want Aaron Rodgers as my quarterback. Make no bones about it.
Of course,
And
yes.
also, yes, he's a very wealthy man, but the guaranteed money he has left on his contract in proportion to his career earnings would still be like a fifth or a fourth or something crazy of his career earnings just because how quarterback contracts have escalated. I doubt he leaves that on the table. And look, not to get too personal, but he doesn't really talk to his family. He broke up with it. It's kind of, this is what he's got unless he's going to go be a professional golfer. So, yeah, I think Aaron Rodgers has whatever it is, 110 million reasons to be back, for at least one, but most likely two more NFL seasons.
I love what Buffalo said there. Not to get too personal, and then gets too personal.
It gets way too personal.
That is a very clear line. Jake Asman, a fellow fantastic, obviously New York Jets content creator. And again, if you're not following Jake Asman, I imagine you are. He's got like 1 billion subscribers. So both me, you, and my mama are subscribed to the Jake Asman channel. How could you not be? But he slides in with this. Appreciate his support on the show. We know Derek Carr can drive a car, but can he fly a jet? I'll hang up and listen. Again, it got a good chortle out of me when I saw that come across the feed. So, Jake, with that, by the way, did you get anything out of that? A giggle, a chortle, a belly laugh, perhaps, Buffalo, when he saw this come across the ticker?
Well, Jake's the man. No, I got a good laugh
course
at
he is.
I was listening to Jake a couple of days ago, and
Yeah.
it was like at this point of the show, like 50 minutes in, and he's screaming at some moron who's like complaining about Geno Smith. I'm like, this is peak Jets off season. Like the stream starts with like Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, and then some moron is like, well, Geno Smith, and then like Jake's getting like forehead veins because of it.
Oh yeah.
I empathize though. There's only so much lunacy you could take as a somebody who has to ingest it on a daily basis.
100% though. Although I just love angry Jake. I just feel like there is something to when you can get his engine revving, and people know how to push a few Jake Asman buttons on there, and you can kind of get his, the juices flowing, so to speak. I think that is some entertaining Jake Asman explains all the subscribers. I think for sure. So Jake Asman, everybody. Which, by the way, I got to get him on the show. It's been a long time. So I've done I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to be blunt. Outside of Buffalo, and we've been doing this show, since like last summer or something. So we've been doing it every week since last summer, outside of rare exceptions. Like, I do a horrible job like championing our other Jets content creators. Keep saying, "Oh man, we got to definitely do something." It's like on Facebook with birthdays.
Yeah,
like instead of just doing happy birthday, I kind of go personal and say, "Oh man, dude, we haven't hung out forever, dude." And then like a year later, dude, hung out. What's going on here? So like I just feel like it's that over and over again. So I got to do a better job. That's my mid New Year's resolution here in February. Yeah,
good.
I got to
work.
Work
set goals, Paul.
That's it. That's important for all of us. All right, we'll wrap up here, guys. Any of your final comments? I'll try to throw a few more up here that you guys are sending in. We got a lot of Jets in the Super Bowl. Okay, yeah, I'll throw that one out there. So Garrett Wilson joined Rich Eisen on the Rich Eisen Show. Great name for the show. Rich Eisen's great. And at the end, no, it was Garrett and Sauce, but like they're all promoting their own crap coming on the show. And Sauce's thing is this Tums Wordy Games. There you go. There's your free sponsorship, Tums. And he said, like, hey, I want you to say Jets and Super Bowl. Basically, that's the word he wanted him to get him to say, and he kept saying it. And he did the same thing with Garrett Wilson. They were like back-to-back guests on his show. And Garrett Wilson said, here, I'll do this for you, Rich. Next 5 years, we'll be there. The Jets will be in the Super Bowl. And this comment hasn't really picked up a lot of steam, so someone should clip that and send that out. Wink. And Garrett Wilson at the end said, next 5 years we'll do it for you, Rich. We'll be in there because Rich Eisen, apparently this is his 20th Super Bowl he's covering as a member of the media. And he said, obviously, this spoiler alert, the Jets have not been in the Super Bowl the last 20 Super Bowls. So he said he'd like to see it. And Garrett Wilson said in the next 5 years we'll be there. What do you think about that window, Buffalo?
Sign me up, man. Sign me up.
Yeah, please.
The law of probability has to get us in there at some point, man. Oh,
for sure.
It's like, my worst fear is we make it and we lose. It's like it's like I can't shake that fear.
Who shared it? It was one of the NYJs, Matt or Mike, and they shared the Tom Brady, obviously the Falcons Patriots 28-3. I think one of them said, if that happened to me, obviously they're Jet fans too, that if they made the Super Bowl and that I can't imagine the brash bravado of me if my team, the Jets, were up 28-3 on somebody in the Super Bowl and I'm freaking giving people the business.
You know me on Twitter, man. It would have been rough.
Oh, obnoxious. So to be able to get that, and then all of a sudden you start seeing it slipping through your grasp, you're like, no. Because again, it's remember forever. The 28-3 joke continues to be a thing, like for all these poor bastard Falcons fans. Oh my God. I think they said they couldn't watch football for a couple of years if that indeed happened to the Jets. So that's the reason why I'm going to be honest. We'll end on this, Buffalo. That's the reason for me that when the Jets make the Super Bowl, when they go back to the Super Bowl. I don't think I can go, man. I don't think so. I say that at the same time I want to go because imagine paying thousands of dollars at a minimum for everything you're going to do, and you get there, you've got the experience, and your team loses. I, I don't know, man. I don't think there's a moral cookie I could go, well, that was a pretty cool experience. I think, of course, if you go and the Jets win, it's something you're going to grab confetti, you're going to put it in a little bottle, you're going to have a picture at the Super Bowl with Jets win, Super Bowl in the background, tickets. You're going to have a forever memory, and you could just die and ascend to heaven. But if they lose, and I paid thousands of dollars, oh my! The only way is if I'm, I have my media hook, so maybe I could get in for free, and hopefully that's the case. But in terms of spending that kind of money, I don't think I could go, man. I don't think I could do it.
Yeah,
Not
well,
sure.
my grandpa is a diehard Giants fan, and he went
Yes.
to the shellacking in 2000,
Oh God, the
where
Ravens.
it was like
Yes.
over immediately. I think it was like 42-10 or something. The final score
Yeah.
was, and it's like,
Ugh.
oh man, I would go though. I'd go. I would do it. I put it all on the line.
You would.
I
God
because I'd
bless
have
you,
this.
man.
I have these weird things where I think like my behaviors are going to affect the outcome. So I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
if I would have went, or I don't know, I'd probably go though.
Ah.
But you know what I mean? Hey,
I'm saying it now,
got a
but like
dream.
in the moment, I would probably sell my kidney and do whatever is
Yeah,
necessary to go because again, it kind of speaks to Jets fandom in general. That like I tell people and they're like, "How the hell are you a Jets fan? That must suck." And I'm like, you know what? There's some sucky moments, man, but it's gonna pay off when they
it's
win.
going to
And
be
they're
the
like,
sweetest.
when?
It's going to be worth more. It's going to be worth like 3, man,
Exactly.
when the
And
Jets
that's what
go
I
on.
continue to tell people when, because again, I get that all the time. I wear Jet stuff every day of my life. So every time I go out and about in the world, people go, sorry to hear that, pal. The jokes of like the Jets are like, yikes. And then I just say, like, it's going to be worth it, man. When they win, I'm going to be the most obnoxious person in the world. So it's going to happen. So again, with that thought in mind and that mindset, that of course, when they are in the Super Bowl, how could I not do everything in my power to go and pull whatever strings are necessary? So I have to go. But I say it now that like there's no way I can go. But you're probably right that we have to go. We
Dude,
have to
as
sell
soon
the
as they
organs
won the
necessary.
AFC championship, you would be like drunkenly buying your
That's
tickets.
the thing. And 100%. And I have to make this clear because another thing because we keep delaying the end. But like Josh Allen had this viral clip after the Bills won the AFC East this year, and I shared it and gave my own comment that like he said, man, I'm sick of these stupid AFC East hats. They suck. Like I'm trying to win a Super Bowl. And like for me, I'm like, well, the Jets are won the goddamn AFC East in 20 years. I will gladly purchase that gear. The AFC East hat, the shirt. Now, I'm going all in, baby. There is absolutely no shame in that game. I am 100% making that purchase. On top of obviously you'd make the Super Bowl purchases of the gear, but you have to for the AFC East, I think, especially with that kind of, gap. We're talking 20 plus. It will be over 20 years, obviously at a minimum, because we're already in 2023 now. But that I'm buying. That's a purchase for
Oh
sure.
yeah, and if they get a Super Bowl, I will do the unspeakable, trashiest of all things. A tattoo will go somewhere if when the Jets are Super Bowl champions. I got so many
Yeah.
tattoos as it is; it'll just blend in, so it's
How
all
many do
good.
you have right now, Buffalo? I didn't even know you had any. But yeah, what do you got?
I mean, it depends on how you want to combine some of them. I don't know,
What do you
15
mean combine
plus.
some? What do
Well,
you got? A
some of
tat
them are
sleeve?
like
What are we talking about
no,
here?
some of them are like joint pieces that have been added on over time. But 15 plus.
15 plus. Holy, I felt pretty cool. I got the Pokemon, which the green is for the Jets, obviously, and then I've got a family crest on. It's a bigger one on my shoulder, and like so, I got two. I'm like, it's solid. And then I'm waiting for the Jets one because I've got a lot of ideas for Jets, and maybe Super Bowl is what we're waiting for here. But okay, so yes, I will 100% do that. How could you not remember it in ink forever? I will not be the guy that goes Super Bowl 58. That's already a
Oh
full
god.
back piece, baby.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, before
I'm
it even
not,
happens. Like some Cowboys fan did that like week 4. I'm like, oh.
yeah. I respect though that like I've seen one of them where someone got like whatever it was Super Bowl 51 on their back, Cowboys winning it, whoever it is, right? And then they didn't win it, and then they go to the tattoo guy, say, throw another one on there, Super Bowl 52, baby, here we go, and you kind of extend your window. Now, eventually, with how Roman numerals work, that's not going to
Yeah.
work forever, but there are some pivots, some adaptations that can be made to try to extend that. So
All right.
we'll see what happens. All right, Buffalo, final thing we get out of here. What's your gut say on when the Jet? So he's talked about the WrestleMania date, right? Like
Sure.
by then, are they going to be? Like, of course they will. But what's the actual date you believe that we have clarity on the quarterback situation, and we're both immediately rushing to a live stream going, oh my God, the Jets have insert guys their quarterback. What's the date? Give me the date.
The date is going to be March 13th, the start of the new league year.
Okay.
Well, hold on. Let me make sure I have my calendar. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, because there's a legal tampering period too. So yeah.
Yeah. So March 13th starts the legal tampering period, and that is when the bombshell tweet will come.
Okay.
Aaron Rodgers traded to the Jets Tuesday, March 14th. Boom. First Pat McAfee episode with Aaron Rodgers as a member of the New York Jets.
With the Jets hat on.
That's what I'm rolling with, man.
Okay, I love it. All right, Buffalo, another fun show again for everyone. We will be flipping over to your channel next week. Hopefully, some level of updates on this quarterback madness. Your link is in the description. Any plugs? What do you got going on the channel, man?
Sure. So tomorrow, Ian from Jet Central is going to hang out with me tomorrow at 5. And then I am launching a separate podcast with co-host.
Oh, I heard about this.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. Co-host Joe Blewett of Jets X Factor. I think it's going to be a Jets X Factor exclusive. Mr. Robbie Sabo and Michael Nania will have yours truly. So more details to come on that. I'm super excited because Joe is a
film
wizard.
junkie, baby.
Yeah, and I think that's gonna be fun. So stay tuned for that.
All right, beautiful. Yes, that's a great reminder. By the way, I've seen a few of the name suggestions. Buffalo Blewett, I saw was one of the ones thrown in the mentions.
Yeah.
Are you anywhere on the name?
It's hard to find ones that don't sound vaguely sexual, so we're working on it.
That's true. As we're just trying to make a baby here. All right, let's see. Joe Buffalo. But okay, we're looking forward to that again, guys. So it looks like that may be a Jets X Factor exclusive. So more details to come on that. And guys, I will tell you this: we got a big thing releasing. I can't give much details on this, but this will be coming out within the next month. Major announcement. I mean, monster announcement. So I'm just going to have to kind of leave it at that. Also, we're set to have a few of player interviews coming up. So a few of the players on the team, some that have never joined my show ever before, are going to be making their appearances. So we have that coming up here shortly here on the channel. So guys, make sure you like the video, hit subscribe. All right, I think that covers all our bases there, Buffalo. And thanks for another week, brother. And we'll check in next week with you.
Take care, everybody. Have a great night.